welcome to that spiritual, actual, factual answers to questions you're asking. You find them inside you, recite you, reciting the records of cash. We laughing, we drafting the passion through various. It's time for that comedy, dramedy, all of the fanciest, catchiest acronyms. Listeners, listen, we traveling. Conscious is always unraveling. The reading you're having is mapping you back to your natural habitat. Abracadabra, it's magicless, passing it. To top it off, the host, all the classiest. Now, what were you asking for? All of the answers? What? All the answers.
All right, so.
Hey.
Hi.
I have heartburn today, Katie. I don't know what's wrong, but I have heartburn.
Really? Oh.
I think I drank too much coffee.
Well, I was about to say, I'm on all these new supplements, and one of them is a heartburn one.
Oh.
And it's helping a ton. Like, remember I had that cough forever and ever, and I was like, damn it, it's caffeine, and I have to stop caffeine. And so I've been way decreased on the caffeine.
Yeah.
And the coughing is 90% gone from this freaking supplement.
I mean, I want to say go back and listen because I did bring up the possibility that it was GERD, also known as heartburn.
No, you were right.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying this. You were 100% right.
Yay!
I didn't understand that GERD could come in the form of coughing.
Right.
I thought
It's
GERD
so
had
weird.
to feel like heat in your esophagus. And my naturopath was like, no. And you get this weird twist. She also said the last 5 years, she has all these clients with new GERD symptoms.
Yeah.
Where GERD didn't show up in the past as a cough. It showed up as, GERD. It showed up as heat, like it felt like heartburn, like it's burning in your heart.
That's weird. So she had an increase in that. Will you do me a favor? Will you ask her how? I want to put it in the simplest terms. Will you ask her about the idea of increasing stomach acid to reduce acid reflux, as opposed to what's the opposite?
Talk to me about that. She has talked to me about that.
I love this.
Apparently,
yeah.
I know. It's so interesting, right? Apparently, it's just dependent on the person. Sometimes you don't have the right acid.
Right.
So it's overproducing acid. But other times you have too much acid. And so you have to take less acid.
Right. So if you need to increase your acid, that way you get better digestion and then things go through and release and don't get backed up, because when you get backed up is when it splashes up onto your esophagus. Gross.
Oh, so that is one way it happens. And then I also learned another way it happens is she thinks my case is more likely that when you're taking in too much of the acid, it actually like overly opens the sphincter. That's right.
Yeah.
Between the wherever and the wherever. So it never closes. So you're just getting acid splashing back up in there, and then you cough.
Yeah. We got to get our balances right in our bodies, man.
Yeah. And I'm just stoked that the little supplement is working. It's a powder, and I'm supposed to drink it first thing in the morning in hot water, and it works. And I have to just temper my espresso now and not drink a lot of it.
But you're allowed to have it back.
A little bit. And the cool part is I haven't been hankering for it the way I used to, because in addition to, and this is a great topic for our podcast that we're doing right now, in addition to supplement work, this particular lady does this thing called integrative parts work, which I think I've talked about on here a little bit, where we've spent a bunch of time together. I went into her and I said, okay, I'm obsessed with my espresso. I have to have it. I can't go a day without it. I've never gone a day without it in 10 years. Help me. And she was like, okay, some supplements, but also we need to look at the part of you that thinks it needs that so badly. We did this whole integrating of that part of me. We give it voice. We acknowledge it. We allow it to speak. We don't try to make it go away. We hold space for it. And in so doing, I feel the part. In this case, it was a very young part of me that believed it wasn't allowed to be playful and have joy.
Wow.
I know. And so I was needing the espresso because it made me feel like I could be playful and have joy.
Right. Because it's the sort of artificial version of that.
Yeah. And so we integrated her, and some crazy fucking shit happened in the doing of it. One thing that happened, and this is in the moment, not later, I felt there was a lot of crying, and then I felt her present, and then I felt lighter, and I felt joyful. But the secondary thing that happened that was totally unexpected, that she was like, what? Okay, cool. And I
this
was
is
like,
your naturopath. This isn't your spiritual healer. This isn't your therapist.
Right. But she's got a little bit of all that in her.
Yeah. Most naturopaths do.
Yeah. So what happened was the part integrated, I felt all this lightness, and then we sat there longer and I realized there was more parts of me were lighting up and asking to be integrated. And we tracked through them inside of me while it was happening. And it turned out it was each of my organs.
Whoa.
It started with my lungs, and then it was like kidneys, spleen, pancreas, heart. They all, Cassidy, like came back online.
Oof.
And we found the moment in time, and it was during my trigger warning, sexual abuse talk. When I was an infant and I had some sexual abuse happen, I dissociated away from my fucking organs, my own organs. Because, and I think this is an important thing to talk about, despite that it can be quite triggering for some people, because when you're an infant and you're pre-verbal, which I was, that means the part of your brain that has language and understanding literally isn't developed yet. So if trauma happens to the baby body that young, the only thing the baby brain and being knows to do is to fully dissociate away from itself. Why? Because the pain and the invasion and the toxicity of the bad man doing the bad thing is in the baby's body.
Right.
So the psyche says, get out, quick, there's a fire in the house, leave the house. But the idea that it could happen to that degree where I, the adult Katie Rubin, am literally not in contact with my own lungs and kidneys because a bad man decided to do some gross shit to my baby body. How fucking amazing is that?
That's so wild.
I find it like endlessly fascinating. And then the beauty on the emotional level of them each coming back online. And I got to like grieve all the years of being disconnected from my own fucking organs. I'm in her office like, I've missed my lungs. And it was so surreal. I didn't even know I missed my lungs.
Wow.
Until they were back.
Katie, this is go. Yeah, finish.
Last little thought.
No.
The result of it is that, and she told me this would be true, and I didn't believe her. She said, when we integrate the part that is needing the espresso, you'll be like, I don't know, I have it, I don't have it, it's fine. And I didn't believe her. And the organs part, when they came back online, ever since then, I've been like, yeah, I'll have some espresso in the morning, or oops, I forgot. And it's because like, I think I needed the activation of the caffeine to like feel myself, to find my inner organs at all, or to think, or to have some kind of semblance of a version of that. Anyway,
your cat is freaking out in the background.
I know.
There.
I want to. Can I let her out? I'm sorry.
Yeah, do what you got to do.
Hold on one second. So yeah, that's like been a really big discovery and adjustment in my reality, and it's pretty cool.
That's so interesting that like literally just today was having a really awesome generative conversation with my housemate about all the different ways in which like all the things aren't separate. I'll bring here, little context, you know, we were kind of going through the thing of like creativity is generative in concept. So is spirituality. And it's the original thing about this podcast that we were trying to unearth was that there is no separation between creativity. They are one, and in, you know, like art, spirituality, good eating, therapy, they're all like generative things towards the betterment of the self in this three-dimensional world, in a sense. And that's one thought. And so that they aren't separate, and that as a result, all these different systems are working in different ways. And then we started talking about neuroplasticity and the brain that changes itself and the brain that heals itself, which is the book that is the sequel to the other book that I just said. There are two books because she's reading The Brain That Heals Itself and doing a lot of like movement-based work around the idea of neuroplasticity.
Wow.
And I was talking about my very middling knowledge of like neurofeedback and neuroplasticity based on my parents' work.
Right.
And how that is totally it's related to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In that early trauma happens. Yeah. Oh, right. I almost drowned. Now I'm afraid of water. Why am I afraid of water? Look at the brain waves. They shifted. They they armored. They protected me. Thank you, brain.
Yeah.
You saved me.
Right.
You protected me. You had to change everything about yourself. You had to adjust here, tweak this, increase the theta, decrease the beta, gamma, delta, right quadrant in order to armor against whatever the trauma was. Trauma's gone. I'm past it. I'm done. I moved on to somewhere else in my life, but the brain remains the same.
Yeah.
So that's where addiction comes to play, because you have to, in order 100%. To maintain that something, because you're out of whack, you have to feed it with an addiction or with something else or with behavior or whatever. And so when even if we've talked therapy to address the trauma, we haven't still addressed the systemic shift that occurred. Okay. And so you addressed the systemic shift from this direction through dealing with it through sort of a little bit of spiritual, a little bit of food-based exploration and nutrition and all the things. Well, it's
like the physical, psycho, spiritual, all one, 100%. So
like you could come at it from the brain and do some neurofeedback with visualizations and sound patterns. You could do it through the spirit, bringing the light to it. You could do it, but you can't. The one thing you can't do is you still have to address the change that occurred as a result of the trauma, not just the trauma itself. It's not just the thoughts that got fucked up.
No, not at all. No, it's the thoughts and the feelings and the body and the brain and the spirit and the fucking nervous system. It's everything.
Yeah.
What I find too on this point is that there are certain, depending on the issue at hand, like you might have an issue that will literally only be treated by 760 megahertz of sound wave.
Right.
But then a different issue that you might have will only be treated by divine light. And then a different issue you have, you need a supplement. And that's why it's like when people become sort of zealots about any one thing.
Right.
Oh, the answer is therapy. The answer is, fucking cold pools. Whatever you think the answer is.
It's generally cold pools. I think that would save, if we could all just have a cold pool, everything would be better.
It's flower essences and cold pools. That's it. And it's like little anal sex, like twice a month.
That'd help.
It's just the formula I've seen, Cassidy, that works for most people. No, but that's my point, is that we are multidimensional beasts, and we are made up of the fabric of so many different dimensions. And even if you just want to think of dimensions as meaning thought, feeling, body, mind, heart, spirit, body, mind, heart, fine, whatever. There's many more than that, but if that's as far as you can think, those are 3 different dimensions, and those dimensions each need different forms of treatment. So anyway, it's just, I get so excited. You know what it makes me think of? Have you heard of Ken Wilber?
I know that name, but I don't know why.
Folks in the kind of this world he's pretty well known as sort of like being the godfather or grandfather of something called integral theory that he invented, which he was kind of the first guy who said, and wrote very, I want to say, descriptive and specific and detailed books on the topic of integral theory. He was like, he draws pictures that he sees just in meditation and then integrates that with his scientific studies and his deep understanding of physiology and psychology and all of it. He draws these images that show you the multidimensional nature of the human being. And he was the first guy to be like, okay, so everybody, your spirit and your psyche and your body and your food and your heart and who you date, all one thing. Here's an image of all of it at one time and all the levels of consciousness. And we have to treat all of it. And then he even has diagrams where he'll show what happens when you treat a trauma only on the emotional level in the energy field, the complex field of the human. And then he says, so you see the trauma still remains out here in the auric field and here in the psyche and here in the asshole, for example, of whatever trauma. Let's say you have an asshole trauma. This is my theme tonight, assholes. I guess it's a regular theme. Let's be real.
It's pretty standard. I don't think we're
not
off
deviating
brand.
Far off the path. But let's say, so he'll show you in an image, which I just think is so helpful for so many people. Look, you've changed these little lines in the image, but you didn't change these over here or this over here. Just exactly to your point that certain things have to get treated from many, many different directions.
Yeah. And I like the idea of directions, because it was like, because we've also talked about like, we don't want to separate these things. We don't want to ensile them and say like, oh, that's a physical problem or that's a spiritual problem. So it's almost like seeing them as like doorways or alleyways into that, the all that is, which is the self. The self is all these things.
Yeah.
But like, you know what might be a better angle into the center of the self on this one is the spiritual door. Like I'm going to come into the spiritual door, but it's not that the spirit is separate. No. It's just that's the entryway, also known as an asshole.
That's the asshole. That's the asshole you need in that particular case.
Oh.
We have a good time. We have a good time.
It's all right. It's all good.
Side note, but related, is she also has me on 2 new supplements this week that we did a bunch of hormone tests for me. Like I've felt like my hormones have been weird for a while. And so we did the spit test. You like spit into a tube and the spit goes through the tube into another tube that you freeze it. And then you send it back in a little foam box to the people. And then they test your spit and they say like which hormones are out of balance or what needs what in your body, whatever. And we did the blood tests and we did all the tests. And one of the things apparently my system was low on, which really surprised me, was testosterone.
Yeah. Okay.
And so she's got me on Chinese herbs that organically cause the body to produce more testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I apparently was low on something called DHEA, which I believe is an amino acid.
Okay.
Or something like that. I don't really know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I'm
going to do my best not to go like, oh, I know what that is, because I fucking don't.
You don't know what you're saying. You don't know anything. You're just a man. You're just manufacturing.
I really have the desire to go, I've heard of that. I've heard of that. Shut up.
Yeah. DHEA, I know.
Shut
stands
the
for
fuck up, Brown.
Dentistry, health, ear enamel. No, enamel. You don't spell that with an A.
Enamel.
Enamel.
Animal.
An animal. Anyway, my point is the thing that increases testosterone is a tincture, and I'm supposed to take 2 like dropperfuls of it twice a day. I'm telling you, Cassidy, like 20 minutes after taking it, I'm like awake, I'm activated. I noticed that she was saying like muscle tone starts to leave women. We get flabby and muscleless because of testosterone levels decreasing.
Makes sense.
It does, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, I think, yeah. And I'm going to try not to. Yeah, I know about this, but this is me theorizing. Like,
okay, I'm ready.
Little bits that I've picked up. And that is that like we do this division also of like testosterone, male body.
Right.
What's the other one?
Estrogen.
Estrogen, female body. Total bullshit.
Right.
It's actually, It's just about balance. Like, yeah, I fucking have to have estrogen in my body or else I'm not going to work right either. Like,
that's right.
It's pieces and parts. It's just the intensity of
and we were looking at in my thing, we were talking about that just that the levels are off. It's not that you have to like have a ton of testosterone. I'm going to grow an Adam's apple now.
Right.
But we're talking, which would be fine, but I don't prefer it.
You can also have way too much. My grandpa literally, and it makes so much sense, was he had, I think they called it like testosterone poisoning.
No way.
And he was a fucking asshole. So it's he was a great guy and he was a terrible guy. Like he had all the problems. Like
you're allowed to say he's an asshole.
He was an asshole to adults. That's what he was.
To adults.
He was great to the kids. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. What kind of asshole?
Just, take care of your shit. And I don't listen to, I don't do anything for anybody. We all have to bootstrap ourselves and
right. I remember
fucking not give love to you because you don't deserve it because you're a grown up. You don't need it.
Oh, boy.
Shit like that.
Right. Okay. That's.
But then it's like when we've already had testosterone poisoning, you're like, I'm not going to read too much into that, but woof.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then see, so it has me thinking now that we're talking about this with that. Remember your idea about the acid? Like sometimes you need more acid to be less acidic.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, I think I might have needed more testosterone to be less masculine.
Sure.
Like in other words, I think something in my system has been like working hard to be more directive out of an awareness of its own lack of the organic compound that would facilitate the appropriate amount of same.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, that's kind of like, the drinking caffeine to imitate the playful child that was not being generated naturally. So you're overcompensating. Like, I know there's so you're reaching for it and grabbing at it. That's interesting.
Interesting stuff. And here's what's fascinating me. Like for me personally, what's fascinating about all of this on a whole other level is back in the day in my 20s, when I was just starting out looking at all this stuff and trying to heal myself and get my shit together, I did all the supplements, worked with all the naturopaths, did all the therapy. I did so much stuff back then that when I did it then, it did nothing for me. Like it didn't help. Or I shouldn't say it did nothing for me, but I should say it didn't solve the problem. But what I now understand is that my system was so backloaded and backlogged with stuff to process that until it was processed spiritually and then emotionally through the spirit, because that's just how it works for me personally, I couldn't, my system couldn't receive the value of something like a supplement. Supplements just like, I just shat them out. They would just go in and they come out and then nothing happened. But now I take 2 droppers of a vial of liquid and I'm just like a different animal in 20 seconds. And that is really cool for me to see as an energy healer, because it just shows I know it's anecdotal for someone that isn't me, but inside of my system, it's like further evidence of, some things really have to get worked out on certain levels, like we're talking about, before other levels can receive or function. Yeah. It's just how it is. And it's different for everybody, which direction has to go first and which direction goes when and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. That just makes me think about the sort of almost improvisational nature of any kind of like work transformational work, that like your best, that like why zealotry is a problem. Yeah. Zealotry of like, oh, this is the answer is a problem, because like, I was recently sort of analyzing my work as like a coach, as a improv and presentation coach. And I was like, I realized one of my greatest joys is getting to engage in my own improvisational mindset in order to follow sorry, my phone is doing weird things. I'm going to tell it to shut up. In order to like follow the cues of my client to help reveal what they need. But I need to be practicing the very thing I am trying to teach in order to do that. Whereas if I'm just hitting my, like, first we do this, then we do this, then we do this, we're not going to get anywhere.
The formula of it.
The formula. Now I do have all these tools.
Right. Which is why it's like jazz music. This is why I think jazz music is so good. When it's so, I mean, who's really playing bad jazz ever? Like when
bad musicians are playing bad jazz.
But I never run into bad jazz. Do you?
No, because you don't. Okay. I mean, I only go try and listen to jazz when I'm pretty sure I can trust it.
Yeah. Well, okay. Anyway, there can be bad jazz.
Yeah. Bad improv, bad everything. There's bad everything, but we try not 100%. To see it.
But the jazz thing of like, it's the perfect metaphor for so many things. Like you're saying on the healing path, like who was I talking to the other day that said, oh, I think Chad and I were hanging out and he said, you can't, it's like when people get formulaic about healing, or they're like, first you do the thing and then you do the other thing and then you won't hate your mother anymore. And it's like, nope, because each individual client is a different jazz music piece.
Right.
So I may use my mandolin this time, and no jazz musicians use a mandolin. I may use my upright bass or my fucking piano this time, but next time I may use neither of those. Next time it might just be a fucking triangle.
Right.
Because the individual is so unique and specific to themselves. I'm going to let my cat in, and it looks like you're going to let Safiya in.
Yeah, Safiya's here, so I'll let her in just a sec. I decided not to let her in yet until you were back, and then we could do the transition into letting her in.
Perfect.
And it looks like Safiya's here, so let's bring her in. Was that totally artificial? Great.
No, I love it.
Awesome. Perfect timing for a fellow artist, creator, actor, genius extraordinaire, Safiya Fredericks, coming online. There's Safiya. Oh my God, what a face. I love you.
Oh my gosh. Hi.
It's so good to see you.
Oh.
Even my dog is excited.
It's so good to see you.
Where are you? How are you? Where are you? Yeah.
Well, I'm okay. I'm in Los Angeles. I am apartment sitting for a friend right now. So yeah, I'm in her place. Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, so Safiya, just for our listeners, is a friend of Cassidy and mine separately from each other through theater, acting worlds, and God has done some really freaking cool shit in recent years. I mean, all over your life, I'm certain, but including like acting up in Ashland at the, what's it called? Oregon Shakespeare
Festival.
What a big deal. Big deal. And then, so just like fabulous, incredible, talented actress, and like was a neighbor of both Cassidy and mine when we all lived on Lake Merritt. Are you still technically there, Safiya? Do you live there?
Kind of technically. I mean, my family's still there. Like I'm from there, but like I'm not technically in that spot anymore. So, but that's okay. It's still family. So I'm still there. It's still home.
That apartment is no longer the Safiya pad.
It's no longer the Safiya pad, and people text me all the time going, "Hey, I walked by your apartment. How are you?" Because it really was like, because of where it was and the fact that it was like on the lake, like it's just kind of like people, if you've been there, you're like, "Oh, this is the spot."
This is the spot.
And I didn't realize that was happening until I wasn't there anymore, and then I was like, "Oh, I guess that was kind of a thing."
That's sweet. That's sweet.
And did you move to LA like before pandemic bullshit happened to like get into a scene or to?
I got here, I was going to do a show here, and, didn't. And so then, as it was with everything, I had a show booked at South Coast Rep, and then it didn't happen. And then I was already here, and I was just like, the complexities of love the family, but like the complexities of like, okay, do I stay in this pod? Do I stay in this pod? Do I like, what do you do? Especially in the beginning when we were all just trying to figure it out. So I just was like, I'll just stay here by myself. That'll be good.
You mean like your family's up in the Bay Area, so you're kind of escaping a little?
Yeah. No, my family's up in the Bay, but they're in different places, and everyone has their different comfort levels around Corona and whatnot. And some folks are immunocompromised. So then it's like, well, I want to go for a walk with my friend. Will they let me go for a walk with my friend? I'm not doing that.
No.
So if you stay in LA, you're just like, you don't have to mess with that. You're like, guys, sorry, I'm in LA. I can't.
I'm by myself. I can do whatever I want. But so we'll see what happens. So,
and I'm wanting to ask you, I have like 90,000 questions for you. Thank you. First of all, thanks for being here with us. It's so fun to have you.
I'm so glad to be here. I love you guys so much. And it's such a great podcast.
Oh, thanks.
I love it so much. I listened to it. I was like, I texted Cass. I was like, this is all the way up my alley. Like, this is everything that I... So I love it. I love it.
Perfect.
Well, my question is like, my first question is, interestingly, like I've wanted to ask more actor friends what they're doing, because I have such a strange, or I should say just my own relationship to that whole world that is my own unique, idiosyncratic, whatever it is. But I'm so curious how people who are actively in the biz at the moment, like, what are you doing? Like, how pandemic, what's happening for you? And specifically though, how does that relate for you to whatever you believe about spirituality and consciousness? In other words, I would imagine that this is a time when if you're in a field where your whole thing happens in groups of people in public, and that's not happening so much, or not in the traditional typical ways that it's been happening, that this would be a real time to be employing spiritual tools, spiritual teachings.
Yeah. I mean, my thing was like, when it first happened, I was disappointed because I was waiting, because I felt like, oh, this might be a new chapter for me. Yeah. I was disappointed in a sense, right? But I was also like, if you're not using this pause as an opportunity to go deeper inside, you're completely missing the point. Like, there's no way that you should be spending this time, rummaging through your mind or beating yourself up or all of these. And those things are going to happen. Those things definitely happen for me. I'm not saying that I'm immune to any of those things. I was incredibly disappointed. But if you're not using it to go deeper into your practices and using it as an opportunity to say, especially being in the business, being like, well, no one's doing anything. So guess what? Like, I'm not behind right now.
Oh my God, I love you. That's like, that shit is so, go ahead. Keep talking.
I was just like, I'm not behind anyone. We're all here. That feels great. That feels like I can maybe like breathe, do whatever I want if I felt like it. That feels like taking this moment for myself doesn't feel like I'm being lazy, you know, which is the thing that I'm sometimes beating myself up about. But it's like, we're all doing it. And I just felt like, oh, this is yummy. This is yummy. Now, as time has gone on and, you know, people have done things. And actually, I guess people think that I've done things too. And I guess I have, but I don't feel like I have. But like, I was like, you're crushing it this year. And I'm like, I am? What have I done? But as time's gone on, though, our business at least has like opened up a bit and people are starting to work. So now I'm back into the like, oh no, I'm not doing anything. Why aren't I working? Blah, 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 blah. And I just use that as another opportunity to go, we need to lessen the social media. We need to mute some people. We need to just kind of like make sure that we're still in our space and owning our space and not consistently looking at other people and what they are able to do in this moment as a comparison and a judgment on what we're doing.
That's so real.
The whole compare despair idea, like to compare is to despair. I used to always feel like if I muted social media or if I wasn't just like tapped into what everyone was doing, I don't know, that I would die or something, or that it would all fall apart. And then I realized,
you would fall behind completely because you wouldn't know what was happening, so you wouldn't be in on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But then for me, I mean, again, I have my own idiosyncratic relationship to all of it, and I had to do a thing where I really wanted to find out what would happen if I actually really did lose total touch and just not be a part of it and completely not. And what's weird about the timing for me is it happened right before Corona. I got injured on the last show I was doing. And before that show, I was like, I really am looking to give myself permission to stop for a while because I am exhausted, unhappy, don't like these people, hate this shit, not paid enough, fucking tired. I have another business I could be focusing on. Like I was done. You know what I mean? Then my body got injured and I was like, I get it, universe. I have to sit down. I'm injured. I get it. And then Corona happened. And I was like, thank you, Lord, baby Jesus. Cause there's now like 9 reasons I can't do it. And
absolutely.
The peace that has come from not having to be on that wheel that you're talking about is profound. But I don't think that means that the answer or whatever, the answer, capital T, A, there isn't one, but like B, for everyone is to fully disengage. I just needed to fully disengage for myself, you know?
Absolutely. And I think it's like for everyone, they have to navigate their own relationship with it. But I think especially for us in our business, it's just a constant bombardment of people on set, on stage with this person doing this awesome project. I booked this, it's like a constant, and I get it because that's actually the only things that I post about on certain channels. It's like, I just post about work. So it, of course, looks like I'm always working.
Right, that's all I ever hear about from you is how awesome you're doing. How do we hang on to that revelation that we had early on, that moment of I'm not behind, and that feels so right and good and real and deep and important. Like I had that when I was able to feel that, it life-changing, utterly. And I am feeling exactly similar to what you said a little later, which is like, I'm starting to slip. And I see it come up and I look, someone's like, they're doing a reading of a play that I did a early reading of. And I was like, why didn't they call me? And I'm like,
why didn't they call me?
It's like, who gives a fuck if you do that 1-2 days of a reading? That doesn't, oh God.
I know. I think part of it, that's such a great question. Holding on to that piece. Part of the journey for me was this muting of the social media and just kind of like changing, not muting it completely, but changing my relationship to it in a way where I go, for example, I go on the Instagram on certain days, I cover up the phone and I just look at do I have a message? Do I have a notification of some sort? Okay, great. We're closing it. That way I'm not even because sometimes even just looking at a person, this sounds so horrible, but even just looking at a person would stir something in me that makes me go, I'm not skinny enough. I don't have this enough. I'm not there. Oh, I should live in New York. Like all of these things, just from looking at a person and with someone who I really like and who I love and who I think is amazing. And so I want to keep all my feelings about myself really sacred within me. And I also want to keep all the wonderful feelings I have about the people in my life still positive and flowy. And I can only do that when I'm not looking with consistency and when I'm very purposeful about why I am looking on this day. And I have had some moments where I've like come across something and laughed so hard and it's been so fulfilling. And I'm like, this was such a needed laugh. I needed that so bad. But I also was very like in tune with, should I look right now? Okay, actually now's okay. How far down do we want to go? Rather than it just kind of being this mindless activity that we're doing.
Yeah.
The other thing I would add is, I don't know, is that for me, that space internally of I'm good, I'm at peace. Okay, here's the thing. The first healing school that I went to, they taught us this concept about, we were doing all these dyads, these healing dyads. So like you'd have a partner and you'd sit in front of each other and we'd bring light in through the heart and transmit it at each other and attempt to perceive other people's stuff in their bodies and ask questions like it feels like maybe your heart is tight. Is that true? Or like what's happening in your neck? And we were just learning how to do all that. They taught us to do it with our eyes closed because they say on the Sufi path, for example, don't look at the choices in front of you with your eyes. Never look with your eyes. Look only with your heart and perceive only with your energy field, like your body's perceptive abilities. And so when I'm hearing you talk, it reminds me of that because we're a culture now, we always were a culture of obsession with what the eyes see, but what the eyes see is programmed with judgment. We're programmed to judge with the eyes. But when you perceive with the heart either says like, yay, or it says like, I don't, nah, or some worse version of no, definitely not. So like the heart is actually not confused. And if this is where like, this will sound like a little bit of a cliche, but blind folks who are blind.
Yes.
Oftentimes,
yes.
Like if you think of Stevie Wonder, like that guy was tapped in. Like people who are blind, their other perceptive abilities sharpen and heighten. And you could argue that it's quite a liberation to be free of the eyes because you can perceive with your heart. So it's almost like if we could like have, if you could choose your acting choices, Cassidy, am I going to audition today? Am I going to bother getting new headshots, whatever? If you could actually hear what your heart says and what your body says and what your deep knowing knows, you would be less stressed and feeling like you're on the hamster wheel. But of course, the very ninja practice of this is that we have eyes and we live in a world that is run by the eyes, and social media makes the eye problem like so much worse. So
yeah, because it's a curated eye thing. It's like it's laser. It's like shoot it. Yeah, we're only going to present this image to you.
Yeah, and I think that especially for us, I think that we're also in I consider it a very mystical profession wherein like not only just the work itself, but also like how the work comes is very like mysterious at times. And I think that all of it is cultivating those muscles, so to speak, in us.
Yeah.
And so anytime you're able to say like, is today a good day to audition, or is today a good day to put that thing on tape? Or do I really want to do this job that's been offered? Or like anytime you're able to tap in and ask those questions, it's like really a profound thing because your being might be like, no.
Yes. Now that is so funny. It's so cool to me to hear you say that because I have a class I'm going to teach in a couple weeks here. It's a class ostensibly about reading the Akashic Records. So it's a learn to read the Akashic Records class. But one of the main things that I like to focus on in that particular class with people is teaching them how to perceive their divinely centered yes and no, which is quite different from just your ego or what your mind would say is a yes and no. And so it's so fun for me to hear you, Safiya, talking about it just you're just like talking about that. Like I tap in and I go, is it now? No. Okay. I live my whole life by that. I don't go to the grocery store if I get a no. Like I'm a little bit like hardcore about it. So I'm so happy to hear you talk about it.
But also, Katie, you may not remember this, but when I had my session with you, do you remember I had a session with you?
I do. Yeah.
And I had already like had a system for yes and no, but you also mentioned that in our session, like how to feel into a yes or no.
Cool.
And it was like a more streamlined version. And so I was able to kind of integrate that with what I was already doing. And I similarly do that in part because of the wonderful Katie Rubin's work. Please take her class. She's awesome.
Good plug.
But yeah, I mean, it's like, but it is about this, like, how do you tap in and just say like, it doesn't feel right. And it's been so bananas, the things that my body says. And I'm like, that must be, you're insane. You have to be wrong.
Yeah.
And then, like, for instance, can I give you a for instance?
I was just going to say, will you give us an example?
I will give you an example. It's a really pertinent example. In 2019, I was a company member at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. Very great. Every time, I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud on a podcast, but every time I checked into, should I come back next season? It was no. Every time. And I was so like, but this doesn't make sense. This
right. I mean, let's tell the listeners, this is one of the pinnacles of our collective
listeners
like career. It's like, oh, you're at the OSF. That's Broadway. That's Broadway West, you know?
Yeah. Listeners, I mean, you're working consistently for like a year, you know, in this, you know, idyllic town, which is
got some problems.
Problematic for a lot of reasons, but like, you know, it's a great gig. And I was just like, the answer is just no. And I was like, I don't understand. I wrecked my brain over it. I tortured myself over it. I just thought I was crazy. I kept second guessing myself. Lo and behold, I stick to it. I'm like, no, the answer is just no. It just is never yes. I have to say no. And then there's a global pandemic and everything is shut and nothing is happening. And I realized like, if I had been in Oregon, I would have been the level of misery I would have felt.
Devastated.
You know? Yeah. I mean, just the level of devastation and misery and just kind of like, and now what I'm going to hole up here in Ashland, like I would have been so just like seething with frustration and knowing that I'm not like near anything beautiful. And the great thing about having been here in LA is I was like, it's really beautiful here. I can take walks. Yeah. The weather's nice. Like all of these things. And so that's an example of like something really felt like this has to be the most insane choice ever. And it was the absolute right choice.
I mean, I live in Mancos, Colorado. What?
Because of your inner yes.
I mean, I hear you. Like often just looking around like, what in the motherfuck is happening?
But I also need it, but also like I needed it for a time. Like it gave me more information about what I wanted, what I didn't want, like all these things. So it was like, it was fine. It was great for the year. And for whatever reason, it was no. And that's the end of that for now. Like, you know,
I've been really starting to get some stuff about my next direction and kind of having to walk through like, okay, so this is like a medium spot. This is like a liminal space that I'm in between things. But what an interesting, wild, weird, very specific liminal space, you know? But the other part about it is like, I'm falling into a kind of soul family out here that is unattached in any way to performance work. And it's like I'm meeting people who vibrate at the frequency that I've always been waiting for. Like I have a thing where people's energy field to me, you know, I'm so sensitive to energy that like what people's energy field is kind of everything for me. And it's not even about judgment. It's about, I literally just like can't, I can't do it if the energy fields aren't really
Absolutely.
right. So out here, I have this like new weird soul family, these people who just vibrate in a way that I can hang with. And they do not look like what my eyes or my mind would say my people should be. And that was something I struggled with a lot in the Bay Area, was always feeling like I'm looking around and this should be where I'm really happy, because according to my mind and my programming about liberalism and melting pot and equality and justice and all that, I should feel like totally at home and good here. And there were a lot of ways that I really do feel that way in the Bay Area. But on another level, which I guess I'm going to call right now a kind of like frequency level, this place has it on the Bay for me times a million. In terms of the frequency of certain individuals I'm able to find here quickly. I've been here like 4 months, and I've got these like people that are like weirdo wizard people too. And we sit in the hot tub and just grok one another. And it's just, you get what I'm saying.
I totally get what you're saying, because I feel similarly in that, like, I'm from the Bay. I love the Bay. I loved coming back to the Bay from New York. I felt very like, why haven't I been here? And then over time, I was like, there's something that is starting to feel not coherent anymore. And I don't know why. You don't know where your people are or where your vibes are. And it's not because like people say all the right things. And I think that's the thing about the Bay, is everyone has the right rhetoric. Everyone has read the same books. Everyone's drinking a smoothie. Everyone's like on this vibe. And so you're like, this is my vibe. This is totally cool. And it will be for a while. But sometimes you peel back those layers and, anybody can be a narcissist. Anybody can be an asshole.
That's right.
Like,
that's right.
So
they're harder to see because they're in it. They are really good at performing. And we're in the Bay, we're very good at performing the image of that energy that we think we're trying to vibe with. So you're in a place where someone's going to stand out if they have the right vibe, because very few people are performing to impress you, Katie, in a sense.
Oh, like people here, let me tell you, that's so on point, Cass, because if people here are like, it really dropped me down into a next level for myself of authenticity. I would have said I was an authentic person before, but I've been humbled coming here to sort of like, I've been talking a lot on the podcast about how the land here works me. The land is a healer here very profoundly, particularly this freaking valley where my house is. And the land has stripped out of my, it's wacky, but out of my uterus and all my like feminine organs, it's like pulled out a layer of need to impress, need to be something, any needing to prove. It's turned me into, I feel like, my mind will say I'm boring now. That's the narrative the mind will say, but the body feels like so much more at peace. There's just so little pretense. People are so not interested, and it's not even not interested. It's just not happening. Just never happening. There's a thing so there's 3 towns near, there's Cortez, Mancos, and Durango that are kind of like my main 3 places I spend time. Durango has this kind of like sporty I guess Durango, this is wacky, but has the highest number of ex-Olympians of any city in the world.
What?
Like people win the skiing Olympics and then they're like, well, I did that. I guess I'll move to Durango. And then they like open a coffee shop in Durango. It's crazy. So there's all these like super fit people that are really into like outdoorsy, fit out nature, sporty things. And that can have its own.
I think that's how they describe them. Outdoor fit, nature, sporty, outdoor fit thing.
That's what it says on the lapel of all the shirts.
They got to work on their branding, but go on.
It's a little wordy.
Exactly.
Anyway, and then here in Mancos, it's more, there's this feminine energy. I'm building to a point here. There's this like womb-like feminine spirituality and sort of an artsiness. And then right down the street, there's Cortez, which has like a real, a different kind of spiritual vibe, but like a lot of weird political unrest. There's like, it's a very purple town, very, very purple. And there's like Trump rallies a lot still. And like people fighting on the street, like liberal people marching, and then across the street are the Republican people marching, and it's this really weird tension boiling pot. Anyway, my point is, all of that's happening, but none of it is showy, and none of it is competitive.
Yes.
And none of it is about, I have more blah, blah, blah than you. Even I find these athletic people out here in Durango, they're like, yeah, I won in 96, the Olympics. And then like, now we make bees. It's like, we have a bee farm. And I'm like,
we make bees.
Not honey, just the bees.
We sell the bees that we make to people who then want to make
to people
honey.
who want to make the honey. Yeah.
But there's just like such a different timbre and a different pace and a different consciousness around status and just beingness. There's a lot of being here. People are just being.
That's my favorite. My favorite is people who are just being. And I feel like it's the thing I miss about the East Coast is that, California is just new. Like it just has a new vibe. It just has newness in it.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like, it's harder. It doesn't have to be harder. And I've definitely found my peeps, but it's very, like people who are just of the soil and just kind of just regular and you just talk. It's just like, it's like the West Coast in general. I think it's just a little more challenging, those types of interactions because everyone's kind of putting on whatever they're putting on. And I don't take any shit, so I don't really have any time for it, but
I'm curious to hear, like, I'm hoping I want to hear how it goes for you once things are really busy and you're like booking all the TV shows which you will, because I had such a hard time in LA finding people I could rock and like really merge with. But I've seen some of the most down to earth, awesome, integrated, healthy people go to LA and do really well. And then I've seen crazy people go to LA and do really well. I just could not. I really am and now that I've learned more about astrocartography, let's talk about it. I now understand more about this idea that I always had this sense that like we're talking about certain places, physical spaces on the planet vibrate with you correctly. And certain places you just, no matter what intellectually you're like, this should make sense now, doesn't work. And like the work doesn't come and the things don't happen and whatever. Astrocartography is where there are these lines that run across the earth so if you take your birth time, and you enter it into one of these astrocartography charts, they'll show you all the lines on the earth, and each line represents the energies you will run into in that place on the planet. So I know. So for me in California, the line running through my time and space in California has like a lot of weird tension-y stuff in it. The line where I do best, where my body is happiest on the planet, is right here on the Four Corners. And that's part of why I headed this way. There were 80 reasons and they all converged. And I found out the astrocartography of the Four Corners after moving here. I moved here because I channeled it and cause. But then then my friend was like, have you even looked at the astrocartography? And I was like, oh my God, how did I not think of that? Sure enough, 20 miles that way is like my body's ideal place on the planet. Because now we need to get all of your astrocartography done, both of you.
Absolutely. We know that's the next podcast. That's this goal. That makes so much sense because I also feel though, and I'm sure an astrocartographer could, that things can correspond to a time, like in your life, right? Like,
yes,
this place is good at this. Like, cause I definitely, like when I was in New York, I thought I was never leaving. Like I loved it. I thought it was the best. It was filling me up so much. And then something happened, just life, whatever. And I was just like, it just doesn't feel like I should be here anymore. And it feels like I need to go over there.
Yes, 100%.
And I just do. And there's something interesting to me about being in LA where I don't feel like I always, when being from the Bay and then living in New York, like, we snub LA all the time. It's this, we look our noses down on it. And when I moved back to the Bay, I remember going like, oh, LA, like, that's not it's not that bad. Like, why do we hate it? Like, I don't remember anymore. And then, and every time I come down, I'd be like, that's actually, it's nice. Like, what's wrong again?
Right.
And then having been here, I feel like I find myself constantly going, it's so beautiful. Oh, I love this. Oh, that's so nice. And I just find myself constantly doing that. And so I'm like, all right, well, we're here for now. We'll see.
Man.
Like,
yeah, right.
But, going with the flow.
Yeah, rock on. And the fact that this is something I love about artists is artists are so tapped in certain ways to different level, just sensitivity levels and awareness of awareness, just awareness of like subtle different time and place and when it's right and when it isn't, and the specificities of that like we do offer that gift to the world,
We do.
Yeah.
When things line up, we're like, oh no, this is lining up and I just feel like I should go. Whereas I think a lot of people who are not artists, things would line up and they go, nah, I'm gonna stay.
Exactly. Well, like, because artists, that free-spirited thing where artists are willing to say like, well, I guess I moved to Tanzania now. Whereas like a non-artist or just whatever we're going to call, maybe a less sensitive individual would say like, but my family lives here. Or,
right.
But tradition and projection and cultural ideals say, why would you leave? And the answer is because your body is fucking telling you to, and you're true to yourself. But like it always, I marvel how many people still live their lives not from that. They don't follow what feels right. They follow mental norms.
And the challenge being also, though, that we still we, at least three of us, do exist in a capitalist society that has a certain structure and drive and demand, which is like why, like we're artists, but then we're operating within this system that has been provided to us. Oh, we can audition for plays and they will be at these theaters, and those theaters have structures that pay us money and we get health insurance and all that shit, which then pulls us into that space of like competition, not being connected to our deep yeses and nos, not being connected to actually following, just doing projects that actually speak to us and doing the actual generative work of being a creative or being an artist. So we get into that space of like, oh, I'm at Ashland. That's the top of the career chain. So I'm on this ladder. I've done this right. So I have to stay here. Like, so it's so amazing that you are able to step off that treadmill or whatever it is enough to go self, what is true, what is real.
Right.
And that's kind of the nugget of like how I think part of the gift of being an artist is that I think because of our work and the way it comes to us and comes about makes us more sensitive and more susceptible, right, to those kind of subtle energies. And I think part of it is that how do you then, in this structure that is capitalist, maintain your own integrity and your own standards for yourself, regardless of the system that you're a part of, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the constant thing that we're navigating, or at least I'm navigating, and just getting better at being like, I don't care. Like, I don't want to do, these are the reasons why I disagree with X, like, and being less like, well, I don't want to do that because I don't want to make them mad and and like all of those things that kind of like, we kind of like,
accommodation
battle within ourselves. Yeah.
I mean, I take it probably to too crazy of an extreme, but for me, that's why I'm kind of like, it's like, shh, don't tell anyone. I'm like the only actor in this town. So I could do everything and blow everybody's mind. And I'm like starting a theater company, and like, I have like a little show secretly planned, and then I'm going to do a little stand-up show. And then we're going to bring in some actor and do a play, but don't tell anybody. And so I'm just like, you know why? Because there's nobody here people will just love it. They will just love it because there's nobody else doing it.
So you can create from your heart.
That's my point, is that like, if you go well, and also that's why I created solo shows for so long. And it's what I love about stand-up is that you create it. You get to, and you go, I'm going to do it over in this barn. I don't care what the fucking theater says. And we don't want you to come because whatever reason, I don't need you. I have a barn. I will invite my friends. It's okay.
Exactly. But there's also There's a level though of like vulnerability, and I'd say, vulnerability that you have to have when you're out there by yourself.
Oh,
you know
tell me
I mean?
about
That's
it.
That's a totally different thing. I did a solo show, and it was like, was the most nervous I've ever been in my life, you know?
Yeah, I do know. I really know.
Yeah, I need the protection.
Well, it's what we're talking about, I think, is the trade-offs in all these directions. Like, I tend to go so renegade that I'm like, I'm not taking anybody's anything. I'm doing my way all the way. And great, I get a lot of freedom. But then I'm also like, I have to generate everything, and I have to find people to support me, and I have to find money and venues and all that. And for a long time, I was just willing to do that because I was I'm not going to be a chess piece in your stupid Shakespeare play. I'm not going to fucking do it. But then there was a period of years, like you were talking about, Safiya, where I was like, but now I am. Now I will. Go ahead. Chess piece me. I'm ready.
Just move me around.
Move me around. I don't want to make the
pawn,
thing.
whatever.
I don't want to make any decisions. This is awesome.
You guys have a nice subscriber base. I'll show up and say the pretty words and wear the corset. That's fine. And then I was done with that. And so, I don't know. We just follow what the impulse is to the best of our ability, right? Within the structures that we have or don't have. Like, I'm dealing right now with a weird sort of set of challenges where I'm trying to get some money together from some local people combined with some grants so that there can be a pot from which I can build a season or build an anything. And so it's interesting here, the challenge being in California, I felt like the challenge was there's so many people competing for the money. And here I'm telling people, here's something you could do with your money. In other words, there's nobody competing for it against me, but they don't know that they could put it toward that.
So what is that thing you're doing?
Yeah. I'm having to teach them like, okay, imagine. And then I'm like, it'll create jobs and it'll create this and like front of house and then, and but all the things I'm writing and proposals are all like, so the way people do this in other places is like this. And then you could have this. And here's how it benefits you.
People buy a ticket and then they come to this location.
Yes. And I
love that so much.
Well, you know that both Safiya and I are there. I don't know. I don't want to speak for you, but I'm pretty sure.
Absolutely. I mean, what I love so much about that though is I think, first of all, just like when you go to a play in a place where like people just go to the plays, it's like just one of the most special things in the world. I think
it's magic, right?
It's magical when you're just like, oh yeah, we live in blah blah blah, and we come here every season, and I'm just like, this is the best. Like, it's just like it's true community. Like it's just true. Like it's just truly for the community.
That's right. It makes me think of the Jewel Theater down in Santa
Cruz.
Santa Cruz. Yeah.
That theater always felt that way to me. Like I would drive down from the Bay, however many hours that is. What is it? 2 hours down, 3 hours, whatever.
Unless there's an accident on 17, and then it's 17 hours. But yeah, that's cool.
Right. Exactly. But it's like this little theater, but they have the support of the community. So they have all this funding to like have a beautiful space, but they're the only game in town. And everybody loves it because why wouldn't you? Because it's fantastic and there's no competition. It's not about anymore. Are we better than the Magic or whatever fucking better than? Now it's about, we're doing this beautiful thing and it's a secret over here in the forest. Come hang out with us if you want.
And there's no competing and there's no like, which in the Bay, I kind of felt this weird, audiences being like, well, we only go to the Aurora. Well, we only go to the Magic. And it's like, why? There's theaters everywhere. Just go to all of them. If you like but people like patrons are very weird about which ones they go to, which I find insane.
Yeah, it's funny. It's wacky. It's nice talking about theater with you guys in COVID times because I don't know about you, but
it's all theoretical.
It's all theoretical. But it's fun talking about possibilities again because I go through cycles where I'm just like, I almost have to just fully forget it's a thing just so I can not be constantly upset about not getting to be building towards something. And then I get these bursts, like this last couple of weeks, I've been in a burst of like, I'm taking all these actions. I'm like, I met with these people and this one's going to help with that. And then now I'm like, okay, we can't put a show on, but I can raise money to be ready to put a show on. And I can't, I can't do a play yet because bringing actors, but I can do a fucking stand-up show. So I can call that guy who has that outdoor theater where we did the hay bales for seats. What? Yeah, I can do that. I could tell dick jokes in a field. That's fine. So like, I'm like, okay, the creative energy is returning. So I'm going to take the actions I can take.
I think that's exactly what Dave Chappelle did. He lives in that weird town in Ohio, and he told dick jokes in a field.
That's right.
Yeah. And you're also like slowly unzipping yourself and revealing yourself to your community. You know, it's like, there's this way in which I think as artists, I always feel like this when I meet new people. It's like, you don't really know me if you haven't seen me like perform, because it's like a part of who I am. And so there's this way in which they don't know that of you yet. Totally. And then it's like, here we go.
It's a whole different thing.
Oh God. I'm so glad we're talking about that. Don't you just love that secret little, like when you bring out your A game and people are just can't believe it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you sing your ass off or you tell a bunch of jokes and they laugh for an hour.
Or they come to your improv show and like, I didn't know you fucking did that. What the fuck?
What?
It just feels like a superpower that you're pulling out.
It does feel like a superpower.
I love that.
Maybe it is a superpower.
And when we're just performing for the same, like, oh, those audiences and those people and that thing and my friends that already know, that becomes less special sometimes.
Yeah, because they know already.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, you guys know this isn't fun.
Yeah.
This isn't, I'm not blowing your minds. I'm not sharing with you
it's
this
like the
part of
second
myself.
time you go to see a Cirque du Soleil show.
You were just talking about that.
It's always my example.
I have to disagree with you about the Cirque du Soleil cast. You said that last week. I do not agree. I've seen like 5 Cirque shows and they all have blown my mind completely each time.
So glad.
And I'm a cynical, not easy to please lady. Speaking of which, have you seen the water one? Have you guys seen the water one?
No, I wanted to.
Just whenever
looks amazing.
You got to see the water one. The fucking floor descends. So the floor is here, let's say, and then there's water, like a thin layer of water on top of it. And the actors are walking on the floor, like through the water, because the water's only, say, 2 inches deep. And then before you know it, the floor is sinking. And then they're in an ocean and they're swimming. But the walls of the ocean are transparent, so you can see what they're doing underwater. And then divers from like 70 stories up dive off crazy flippity platform situations and into the ocean that just got revealed that was aground a second ago. There's a scene, and then I'll stop on but there's a scene where there's this tall, lanky, crazy, skinny looking man. He can't be a real person. You're like, is that guy on stilts? He's not. He's just a crazy looking, amazing man. He's playing the piano, a big grand piano. And the grand piano.
People can't see Katie's arms, but they look like spiders.
It's
right
so
now.
great.
He's got these crazy long arms and his fingers are like 10 feet long. And he's playing the piano all dramatically. He kind of looks like Jack Skellington from
Nightmare.
those movies. Nightmare
Before Christmas.
He's playing the piano, you guys. And slowly the piano begins to sink into the ocean while he plays it. And he never stops playing. He descends into water over his head and you never see him exit the stage. And then I learned later, get this craziness, when the actors would exit that way down through the water, there were swimmers down there with the masks with oxygen that would hold it up. So now you, Safiya, are just descending underwater and a lady swims up to you and puts a mask on your face so you can breathe. And she helps you swim to the exit door and then you exit off stage, but you're underwater.
It's true. When I saw Le Rêve, which is the knockoff of O, basically made by people who left Cirque and then like made another Vegas show called Le Rêve, which is the same basically, but with different stuff. There was a diving scene where they just would dive from higher and higher heights. They'd be dropping from a platform. And then there was one where you looked up and there was just a hole in the ceiling. You couldn't even see where they were coming from. And you were waiting for someone to fall through it. And then they fell finally through it. And it was impossibly high. Like how could they not have just gone through the floor when they hit the water?
Oh my God.
And I literally went, like I didn't. So yes, it was. I mean, I have had revamps of moments with Cirque. So I totally acknowledge. But it was, I could not help but make
putting money. Of course, I'm putting money on the table, Cass, that when you see O, you will call me and say, I stand corrected. Cirque has wowed me again.
And it's been enough years that I would probably be wowed by.
Yeah. Well, I hope they survive because I know that they're definitely one of the.
I feel like I read something that they actually filed for bankruptcy. I might be crazy.
Yeah, because I mean,
Like the entire
Cirque du Soleil. You kind of have to have an audience. It's a thing.
But
couldn't they just pause and then come back?
Couldn't they?
I would hope.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know. You know, this is teaching us all about structures and things like that. It's just a cultural institution that I hope it sticks around.
I know. I just wonder, they must have, I mean, if they're going bankrupt, that suggests to me that they must have like a large staff that's employed year round on some level.
Well, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, they have shows in Miami, and actually one of the dressers who I worked with recently, she got a job in Florida and with a Cirque show. Yeah. They have shows all around the world. So I guess it's kind of a lot to keep afloat, I would think.
But like, if you don't do shows, let's say you just take a year off of doing shows and you're an organization.
You just lay off your entire staff.
Well, I was going to say, you could pare down your staff temporarily or furlough people. I'm just surprised to hear that they would go fully bankrupt, because there's ways around that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what all the theaters did. I know Ashland still exists, but they had to lay 95% of their staff off. And they have like an artistic director, an associate artistic director, and a couple of, office people.
Anyone who works in live, entertainment, whether it's music venues, or musicians. I know a lot of musicians who are, not doing anything, haven't done anything. Yeah. I mean, they're just hanging out. Somebody told me about a guy who was like an accountant for bands on tour. Well, bands aren't on tour. So therefore he's not.
So even the accountant is out of work.
So, I hope that they all, I hope that everyone comes back stronger.
Have you been like taking other jobs, or have you been piecing jobs together, or like what's
Thank you. I have been really looking very hard for employment. I did a teaching job for a while. I've been just looking for other teaching opportunities, teaching acting, teaching voice. So that was a thing for a while. I've done a few, readings or stuff that kind of like, where I got a little something, unemployment. Just, it's been a mishmash of like a lot of different things. Yeah. I mean, there was this job that I really wanted, two jobs that I interviewed for that, one I didn't get and the other one like I really wanted, but they don't know if they can hire anyone for that position right now. And so I'm just was trying to really focus on like remote. I was like, I like this remote thing. I like being in my house in my jammies doing work, And yeah, so now I don't know. Like we're
yeah.
We shall see. See. So I'm turning that like back on. I think I just kind of but recently-ish found out about that jobby job, because I've never really. Once I started working a lot as an actor, like I didn't really do that thing where I had a job. And that was really not because I didn't want to, but it was always been very difficult for me to find an employer that was like, okay with me having my life and needing my flexibility. So I just was never able to find that. And also find that thing that I liked and wanted to do that was in conjunction with my work and not something that I like hate and I'm dreading, but I do it because, we can't be totally dependent on the art. Because for me, I know that like, especially when I'm doing a theater job, it's like, that's a lot of shows. Like I don't have the energy to do that and do like regular.
No.
Like,
I've never understood how people do that.
I don't understand how people do that.
Some of those Bay Area actors who like never go equity and like do their 9 to 5 and then come to rehearsal and do fucking shit. I don't know how people fucking do that. I give them a ton of credit. On top of that,
they're the actors who do go equity. And so they're working the 8-show-a-week houses, driving to Santa. I was doing a show with, I'll just say it, my amazing Bay Area actor, Craig Marker, who I love and works all the time, has 3 kids, works as a project manager for some construction company.
How?
And busts his ass. He's like doing spreadsheets on his 10-minute breaks.
No.
It's so funny.
And is also working at every theater all over the Bay. So he's commuting.
That's incredible.
Oh, it's insane.
It's so funny you mentioned him because I just emailed with him last night. I love him so much. And he works very full time. And I don't understand it, because when I'm doing 8 shows a week, 7 shows, I have no capacity to do how do I have any other energy?
I have the energy to take care of myself.
Right. Much less 3 kids.
No, I
3
can't. I can't
children.
even hear that sentence. How is that happening? What, is he Superman? What is he
Kinda
made
is.
of?
Children.
And always full of joy too. What the fuck? Fuck you. Get angry.
I can't with this
Be
guy.
tired and angry once.
All right,
Get
Safiya,
angry.
Nice guy.
what is your full legal name? Do you want to go on the records?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your
That's
legal
why
name?
I'm here, Katie.
Okay.
My full name is Safiya Noni Fredericks.
Noni. Okay. Noni. What is that? Is there a story to that name? Feels like maybe like a family.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, there's a story. I'm the last of 4 and I was unexpected. And so, my name came out of a book. So it was just kind of interesting because like my siblings are all like named after like my parents or like people. And then I came and it was like, all right, let's flip through this baby book and see what we get. But I love it. Noni means gift of God. It's really beautiful.
Okay.
My first name is pureness, wisdom.
Huh. Oh,
I
that's
like
nice.
my name. I grew into it.
I think it's beautiful. I think I can say I've never met another Safiya. I've met Sophias, but not Safiya.
Yeah.
And I love
We're
that.
really rare. I think
Yeah.
I met like one in my life once,
That's funny.
like at a department store. I was a kid too, like my mom. And we were in a department store and it was like, I was like, oh my God, that's so crazy. But yeah, no, there's very, I mean, and also like it's a, it's an Arabic name and it's a Muslim name. So most people who are Muslim. And so they always ask me that question. I'm like, sorry, no, I just,
yeah.
we liked it. It was in a book.
I see. Yeah. When I went to Sufi school, I knew 2 Muslim Safiyas, but they were given that name by like our sheikh from Jerusalem who was like, you are beloved Safiya. And it meant stuff. It wasn't like just a name some American lady had. Like it was very
Exactly.
holy and it has all the significant, So anyway, that's cool.
I love it.
But Noni to me, why do I feel like, please hear this with all the love I mean. I feel like Noni makes me think of a lady's vagina.
Okay, because yoni,
Right.
I think it's called yoni.
Yoni. And like,
They call that, yeah. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
but also like, haven't you heard people say like, oh, it's my nana, it's my noni, it's my yoni,
No.
it's my choni, it's
No, I
my
haven't,
cha-cha.
Katie, I haven't met those people. I haven't met them.
Maybe it's the same white people that are saying like panties and moist. Maybe it's the same camp. That's why.
They're telling their kid, like, make sure you wipe your noni. Like they make up a name for it.
That's the thing. I can literally think of growing up in like affluent white people, Miami, lots of Jews, lots of bar mitzvahs. I have heard many Jewish moms say to their little precious baby girl, don't forget to wipe your noni. And I don't want to minimize your name but it's in my blood from childhood that you're
like, I have to say it. There's also like a noni juice. Like there's a juice.
There is a juice.
That's called noni juice, I think.
I think of Anika Noni Rose, who's a well-known actor.
Yes, Anika Noni Rose.
Oh,
Yes.
I don't know who that is.
She is a famous actor who
Done some Broadway stuff.
is Anika Noni Rose. Broadway, Carolina Change, Cat on Hot Tin Roof.
But she is no
The Voice of
Safiya Noni
Princess and
Fredericks,
Frog.
y'all. Come on now.
She's not.
Okay.
It wasn't, and I have met other nonis, which is exciting.
Oh, that's
I was like,
interesting.
oh, a noni.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, let's do it. Do you have a good half hour left in your?
Oh yeah,
You're
I'm
good?
hanging.
Okay.
I'm hanging.
All right. All right. Let's close our eyes. And we'll take a couple deep breaths into the low belly. Consciously feeling into that second chakra there above the genital area, below the belly button, just down at the seat of the self. The Dantian, according to the Tai Chi folk, and the Unahapili, according to the Hawaiians, and the center of gravity, according to a lot of people. We'll just take some breaths in there. Okay. And then we'll feel into the bottoms of our feet, and we'll just visualize a nice little foot chakra at the bottom center of each foot, like a little spinning tunnel, like a little tornado, spinning, spinning, spinning at the bottom center of each foot. And we'll see that little tornado expand and open and get bigger and bigger and spin until it's expanded open so wide that the entire surface area of the bottom of each foot is a nice wide open plane of energy or a field of light, like an open window. And through that open window, we're going to allow the electromagnetic field of our bodies, to begin to commune and connect consciously with the electromagnetic field of the earth below our bodies. We'll visualize now that extending from the bottom of the left foot and the right foot, 500 energetic roots, extensions of your energy field, Safiya, dropping into the planet, dropping hundreds of miles down, forward, left, right, back, hundreds of miles down into the planet, sending 1,000 at least energetic roots down into the earth. And as that continues, we'll see this nice, long, strong grounding cord extend from the root chakra, or the first chakra there, where the genitals meet the chair. We'll see a nice 1.5 foot wide open tunnel, channel, tube, or grounding cord that shoots to the center of the planet. And as it connects with the center of the earth, we're going to visualize a nice flow of light, like a river or an ocean, an abundant river or ocean of light, coming up from Safiya Gaia, the soul of this planet, flooding up abundantly into your root chakra, flowing forward into each hip socket, down through the glutes and the quads, down through the hamstrings and the knees, down through the quads, the shins and the calves, into the ankles, the feet, and then feeding into those roots we established moments ago. Beautiful. Okay. And then we'll take one more step here and we'll just see a nice balloon floating above our head that is a replica of your 3D body right now. So there's a Safiya-shaped balloon floating above your head. And we're going to see in that balloon anything and everything that could or would or does desire transmutation or healing or integration today is floating up there in that balloon. And we're going to see a nice balloon tail extending from the base of that balloon down into your crown chakra, down through the center of your head, down into your throat, back into your spinal column, down through the spinal column to the root chakra, dropping through the grounding cord and extending all the way to the center of the earth. And when it hits the center of the earth, that balloon tail wraps around a little crank that begins to turn and spin and pull that balloon tail down and down, tighter and tighter, tighter and longer and stronger, down and down, allowing the balloon to now descend into your physical form. The feet of the balloon merge with your feet. The legs of the balloon merge and meet and become one with your legs. The torso merges with your torso. The neck and throat, the head, the jaw, the brain, the eyes, the ears, the cheeks of the balloon merge with your body. The entirety of each arm, the shoulder, the armpit, the elbow, the palms, the fingertips, merge into and become one with your arms and fingertips and shoulders. We see that the balloon has dropped like a lead weight now down into your physical form. We take one last look at that balloon tail that's wrapped around the center of the earth, and we see it tighten and strengthen and root down into the center of the earth, becoming a nice, long, strong top line of energy. And from here, we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us. Holy Spirit of God, protect me, please, from all forms of self-centeredness and direct my attention to the work at hand. Help me to know Safiya Noni Fredericks. Okay, in the light of the Akashic Records. Help me to see Safiya Noni Fredericks through the eyes of the Lords of the Records, and enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of Safiya Noni Fredericks have for Safiya Noni Fredericks. And I'll just go quiet for a moment. Okay, and so we're just going to say to and ask the Lords, Masters, and Teachers of the Akashic Records of Safiya Noni Fredericks. We ask that you deepen us into her records now and clear anything and everything that is or would stand in the way of our receiving the highest information we can receive and the highest vibrational light we can receive for Safiya's healing and integration, should she desire that. Okay. So, all right. So, do you have any questions you'd like to start with, Safiya? I'm probably going to have my eyes closed for this, but I'm right here with you.
I kind of wanted like to see what came up organically first, if that's okay. I don't know if that's
well, it's sort of like they need a starting point of some kind. Like,
oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I guess I have a question about food. I really have been enjoying. I feel like I've kind of cultivated a healthier relationship with food and with sugar during this time. But lately, I've had a few. I don't know if they're cravings coming back, but I'm just curious to see. I want it to last. I want it to last. This feel like I'm cultivating.
Okay, and so when you say there have been some cravings returning, can you say more about that? What do you mean exactly? Cravings for what?
Yeah, I just mean for a while. Like I just had no. I have a sweet tooth. Like I'm just a person historically that has loved sweets and sugar, and I also bake and for a very long time, I just have had no. My cravings are just gone. Like little things in the store or like this bakery or whatever. I'm just not interested. But lately, or a few weeks ago, I was like, no, I really want those cookies, and I bought them. So I don't know if that's just an extension of like still me maintaining a healthy relationship, or if there was backsliding, I guess.
Oh, got you. Okay. Let's just, so if you have a question, what I'm hearing you ask is like, can you consider that part of your healthy relationship, or was it kind of like not healthy?
Yeah. And I want to maintain. Yeah, I guess that is the question. That's a good question. Yeah.
Okay. And then we can look into whatever's required to maintain whatever you're looking to maintain. So let's see here. There's a real inclination here toward, or I should say, away from labeling any of it good or bad and labeling any of it backsliding. Rather, it's like this. It's like, is it the healthiest choice for your body? Do you feel best when eating it? No. Did you have a moment of just going with it? Yes. Is that perfectly ideal for you? Not exactly. Is it totally okay that happened? 100%. And like, they'd love for you to hold it like, it's okay. It's totally okay. And I'm going to choose to keep it clean because I feel better when I keep it clean. It's interesting because the human part of my brain is saying like, don't be extreme about stuff. But what I'm getting for you is that a certain amount of really kind of sticking to a really clean way of eating, clean, you know what I mean by clean, like not the inflammatory foods and not the sugars and all that. It's actually important for your spiritual alignment, and it's important for your wellness, and it's important for your. Okay, so the gut is connected to the mind, is connected to the heart, is connected to the spirit. All is one. So when you're clouded up with the foods of that inflammatory nature, for you, this isn't for everyone, it clouds the whole system, and it makes perceiving your yeses and nos, for example, harder. And it makes mood stabilization harder. And like, even in talking about this, there's a great transmission of light coming through for your body just to nourish you a bit, because ultimately, we don't want to be extremists, the high priesty people of the past didn't need much food at all. They drink their water and they get their basic needs met. And then they're so fed by the light of spirit that, yeah. And so the question we would bring through would be, how can you feel more nourished and fed spiritually? And the energy is like a sparkly, crystal clear energy that you're looking for. Where are the sparkly, clear, crystalline energies in your life that you can fill up on and dance in the forest with, metaphorically speaking, such that it feels so much better to have the clean crystalline frequency running through you that you would just not even prefer that other stuff. And so if you will allow me, I love to bring a frequency through now that's already just dropping in to align you with that frequency such that You seek the frequency rather than the cookie. Does that make sense? Okay. Can we bring it in? Are you okay with me bringing it in? Okay. And so breathe all the way down to your first chakra. Allah. Allah. And this is the Syrian light. So the Syrian star beings transmitting a kind of bluish, whitish light all the way through the middle of you. And see that blue-white column of light dropping from your crown through the middle of you, all the way to the base of your spine. Clearing out, like almost like burning out, like a sword of light, burning out all the places and spaces that would think that cookies could give you what this light actually can, and what only the light can. And feel it to your throat. Receive this light in the throat. Sometimes for you, beloved, they say there are things you wish to say, speak, know, communicate. They have boundaries often. No, I won't do that. Boundaries. No. The no energy. Ask yourself when you crave cookies, what boundary do I need to set with my voice in the form of no, or I'd rather not, thank you very much. And watch as you speak into the no and the boundary, how the cookie craving dissolves. And we're purifying the throat now. And feeling now into the womb space and the uterus as we bring some light there to up level, purify, detoxify. And when we say detoxify here, we're referring to just sort of cleaning out any old stuck emotional energy from that womb space. And so, Safiya, if you could share a little bit about what's happening for you right now, that would be great in your body.
Yeah, I'm very vivid, very much feel the light and see the light. And question arose based on that.
Yeah.
Is really perfect. Can I posit that?
Yes,
now?
please. Yes.
I have fibroids, and I was supposed to have them removed this past month, but it was canceled because of Corona. And I was just doing it because I was like, well, sure, let's do that.
Right.
But I don't know if I need to, and also if the doctor that was scheduled to do it is the right doctor.
Okay, got it. So is it in your highest good? Is it in Safiya's highest good to get the fibroids removed? That's a big fat yes. That's a strong yes. I would do it. And then, and is that doctor, that's not really feeling like such a yes. So yeah. What happened there? What made you, was it just like a personality clash, or what was the?
I just felt something doesn't feel right. She mentioned more than once what's it called when they take everything out?
Hysterectomy.
Hysterectomy.
Yeah, as an option, and I kept saying like, well, no, I don't want to do that. But she mentioned it like as an option, and I was just like, I don't know why you keep mentioning this thing that like is so extreme.
Yeah,
and that something about that felt wrong.
I got you. Okay. A bunch of energy still moving here. So yeah, I would look into second opinions, and I would look into other people who you feel, someone else that you feel better with. Yeah.
Do you think other people at that same facility or a different facility?
It reads like a no. I would look somewhere else. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see here. You guys, I want to see what they're working with something here. Is this more uterus stuff? Yes. Feminine, yes. Let's just do a little more here because it's happening. So just feel into that. The uterus. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasulullah. Allah. Allah, 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 Allah. Okay. All right. Whatever that piece was, that's completed. All right. Did you have other questions, Safiya, that you'd like to throw through the alignment here?
Yeah. A question. I have been researching other doctors, and I want to know if the one that I've bookmarked seems like a good one.
Oh, okay. Can you give a name, or is that too? Do you want to not do that?
No, I don't know it.
Okay. All right. So the person she's bookmarked to do it, I want to say yes, but I can't. It doesn't read very good. Let me see for a second, though. It's not really a strong no either. It's like, I think there's going to be like a big, easy yes.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah. For it to feel like a big open expansion energy. I do kind of get that it's probably a woman or someone where you feel that kind of connection you feel with women. There's laughter. She's got a great sense of humor. She's bright and energetic. You trust her immediately. Very intelligent. Okay.
Yeah, I'll ask this question about moving. I actually saw an apartment today but I have to move. So
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out when. When is awesome.
Is there a deadline? Like, do you have to be out by a certain time, or?
The person is. I'm not sure, but I keep my feelers out because I don't know.
Oh, okay. Like you're house sitting, right?
Yeah, and the person has been very vague about like if they're like what they're doing. But says that they'll give me notice, once it's time for me to go, but I just don't have that confirmation yet. So I don't know, but I'm always looking. So I looked at something today, and so I want to ask about that place, and just in general, like if there was a time where it was like, you should move on in this month, or you'll find something by this date, or whatever it is.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Is it in Safiya's highest good, record keepers, lords, masters, teachers? The place today is like, no, you're not that excited about it.
No.
So, they're like, don't do anything you're not excited about and you don't feel really good about. Same thing with the doctor. It's like, it needs to be an open, big, like it has a quality of like, yay on it, or don't, So does Safiya need to move ASAP? No. Within a month? No. Within 2 months? That feels better. Within 3 months? Yeah, like sometime within 2 months. I think you have that space safely for that much time. Okay. So it's like, keep looking, keep trying, but like, hold it lightly, but keep on it. It's like the energy of easy does it, but do it kind of thing.
That sounds good.
Yeah. And do you have any neighborhoods you're thinking about?
I like my neighborhood. I would like that neighborhood.
Where are
if possible? West Adams.
Sorry, what is it?
West Adams.
West Adams. Okay. Yeah, that reads really good. Yeah. I think you'll find something there. Where is that in LA?
It's near Mid-City.
Oh yeah. It's great over there.
Yeah.
How cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, rough fun.
I guess there's, it's so funny. I feel like my questions seem really benign.
Hey.
But these are the things that tickle the brain lately.
Yeah. Whatever you got.
You actually brought up something that was right on exactly what we were talking about before you came on, which is this magical thing that happens so often on the show.
Yeah. With the food question and
how it's connected to spirit.
And the connection to spirit. We were just talking about it.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. Oh, perfect. Yeah. I think that a question for me, a big question and a big, this is what I already have received. And what I have received is that I need to, or am in this year, the flow is really important for me to just like be in the flow. And because the challenge of last year was like a lot of stop start, a lot of maybe, no, that's not going to happen. Maybe here, maybe there. And so I'm trying to this year kind of like be more in the flow. If there's any guidance on that, or if the question is like, how can I maintain the flow energy so that I'm not as rattled by every bump, so to speak?
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Let me sit with that for a moment. Okay, so Lord's Masters teaches records of Safiya. She's wanting to maintain the flow, right? And so how can she be less rattled by each bump or even have fewer bumps? Okay. There's a few pieces here. One is, so this crystalline alignment we were referring to before, a big part of that transmission that was happening a moment ago was at least in part, a deepening of your alignment with the Syrian light. Okay. So the Syrians are a star nation, that I experience their light as sometimes it's like bright red and other times it's this bluish whitish alignment. Anyway, the Syrians have the qualities about them that are like, they cut through all the bullshit and they're very clear, and it's a strong but light, blue-white, clear clarity, crystal clear, laser-like clarity. Also, the Syrians tend to be very no bullshit, it's got a softness to it and an openness, but it's straight shooting and piercing, I want to say. So one piece is it would benefit you very well to be sitting in the Syrian alignment kind of daily. And I have a really great, just a YouTube video that has like a very strong Syrian transmission that I can send you. And you can literally just play the audio of it and just sit there and receive it for 30 minutes a day if you're up for it. Now, when you do that, it's going to put you into alignment with that frequency, which then what you want to do as you're going about your life is things that pull you too far out of that frequency, don't do them. Things that add to that frequency or support it or facilitate its brightness, do them. Now, here's the important key for this transmission is we wish to say it won't always feel emotionally exactly like what you want or expect or desire, but it will feel like it matches the frequency of this light that you will become more familiar with in doing the practice on the daily. So think of it this way. The way to have fewer bumps, as you say, is to follow the flow and to choose energies in everything. This cafe, this laundromat, this job, this person to date, this food choice. Choose choices, items, places that facilitate, match, support the frequency. Sometimes think of it this way. When you are really excited about something emotionally and then you get it, it turns out terrible. Other times you're really excited about something emotionally, you get it and it turns out wonderful. And vice versa. Sometimes, you don't want to do a thing at all. You do it and it turns out incredible. Other times you don't want to do a thing at all. You do it and it turns out terrible. So the wanting and the feeling on the emotional level is less important than the matching of the frequency of the light. Does this make some sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's like what we were talking about earlier, the yes, no.
That's right.
The yes, no thing. And this is just kind of, I think, a deepening of that for me, like a deepening of that work so that I can be even clearer.
Yes. And we would even offer briefly here that let go of everything your mind perceives, let go of every voice in your mind, and let go of what your feelings want. It's like this. Think of cookies. They're the perfect example. Sometimes you want cookies. You desire cookies. But the moment you put the cookies in your mouth, your body now won't feel the same lightness as it felt if you had, I don't know, a stir fry with vegetables and tofu that feels really good. And you put flavors in it that are delicious and you have a sparkly beverage and you feel light after, but also nourished. It's like that. So we think as humans that we want to listen to our thoughts and our preferences and our feelings and our emotions, but it's like with cookies. Do they really work? Not really. So when you get confused about, but I want this, or my mind says that, drop the want, drop the mind, and track the frequency. The real trick to the bumpiness being less bumpy is being less committed to, attached to, or interested in what the mind and or the feelings say. It's what does the perceptive knowingness resonate frequency-wise with the choice in front of you?
Okay, can I ask another question?
Yeah.
Because my question about this is always this piece of sometimes, for instance, how do I put this? You feel, and the energy is, this would be great. Say it's an audition or a project, but then you don't get it or it doesn't happen, right? So was the purpose of going down that road just for the feeling of it feeling great in that moment? Or why did it not then manifest? That's like
I understand.
Yeah.
Let me listen and see what they say here. Well, okay. You know the saying, rejection is God's protection.
Yes, honey.
Something in the journey going forward would not have resonated and would have pulled you out of your alignment so far that it wouldn't be worth it. Let me see here if there's more. Yeah. Yeah, truly, truly, truly. It's not just a platitude that spiritual people say. And believe us, there are plenty of those that people say that are just platitudes. But it is true that rejection is God's protection, which is to say, when it doesn't happen, it wouldn't have taken you where your soul alignment is going. This is the piece that is difficult for the human psyche and the ego, is that the ego wants what it wants, but the soul is on a different trip. The soul doesn't care what the ego wants. The soul says, I surrender fully to the divine flow, period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel that. I feel that so deeply. Because
Okay.
I've been on this kind of way in which, or at least for even just the past few days, I've felt this like, what if you just open yourself up to what the mystery of what is next, or the mystery of your higher good, rather than thinking with your mind that this thing has to be next, has to be a step. This thing has to be one of the things. And it's like, but it might not be.
That's right.
And that's actually okay.
That's right.
Like, it's actually okay.
That's the deepest way to follow the true soul path. It's so many people spend their whole lives struggling and suffering because they won't surrender to the easier, softer way, because the ego is so attached to its pictures. Now, this comes back to what you were all discussing before about pictures, images, the eyes. When you have deep disappointment at the loss of something, you can be assured that there was a picture attached to your eyes about what the future would have been had the thing occurred. Yeah. And what we would offer for all of you is, when you are in the process, and is to notice the pictures during the process. Okay, what pictures am I creating or are being created by my psyche about what the future will hold with if this fill in the blank occurs? Then the dreamiest option is for you to purify or clear those pictures through the light of source, and then they're gone from your system, and then you are actually less attached to what occurs because the picture is gone. When human beings say, like, just don't be attached to the outcome, you can't not be attached to the outcome when the picture is running you. We, from our dimensional reality beyond where you live, do not know of a way for human beings to actually, there is no way we will go so far as to say, to be able to detach from the outcome of a thing you desire without clearing the picture. Now, the Buddhists have their way of clearing pictures. The star beings have their way. The Sufis have their way. Everybody has the way of, but there's always a way, but it is only done through spirit. This is one piece, when you were speaking earlier of the multidimensional approach, Cassidy, Katie, to healing. This is one piece that must be done through the light of spirit. However you choose to do that is welcome and supported, but pictures can't go through psychology or through what's that called? Biofeedback, or through tapping. You got to go through spirit with pictures. Because why? Because pictures live in the realm of spirit. Specifically, they're showing it to me in the auric field and the emotional body. So you've got to really get into those frequencies and transmute it. Lucky for you, Safiya, the Syrian transmission we'll send you, we'll do that for you. All you need to do is, when you're in the middle of a process and you go, wait a minute, I'm super attached to the outcome here. What pictures do I have operating? Sit with the energy of the pictures in your body and then play that track and let it wash them through.
Yes.
And sit with the energy of it, the feeling in the body, not just the thought of the picture you're having of what the future will be. Let the Syrian light clear it. Okay. And so the human will say, but if I clear the picture and have no attachment to the outcome, I might not get the thing. And we say, maybe, and maybe not. In other words, your attachment to the picture and the outcome that the picture presents is irrelevant to whether or not you will get the thing. So don't believe the superstition that says, I have to see it and know it and visualize it or it won't happen. No, when it is in alignment, it is in alignment. And when it is not, it is not. And the more pictures you clear, the more you have ease of being in the river of flow more consistently. Now, the deepest teaching here, the hardest part is sometimes the flow of the river brings you totally other things. If you think of a river, let's say you're on a raft in a river and you think I'm going to the end of the river, you don't know, maybe a log falls into the river, pierces your raft, you fall out, you get on the log takes you to the side of the river and you meet your husband there. But you didn't have a husband in mind, you had get to the end of the river in mind, because at the end of the river, there's a restaurant I like and they have great IPA beer. So, this is very deep and very difficult for human beings to understand that by surrendering to the flow of the river of light, you're not giving up, you're not failing, you're not choosing a lesser path that's less good. You're actually now receiving what is coming to you as gifts, being gifted to you because it's for your highest good. And remember, let's say down the river comes a teaching job, not the show you wanted. You don't know who you meet on that teaching job that leads to some other show or some other whatever. Does that make sense, Safiya?
That the perfection of that is incredible, because I am a person who have always daydreamed a lot, and I don't visualize for that reason, because I'm like, visualizing isn't good for me because I get attached to the pictures and I'm attached to the outcome and da-da-da-da. But that was so spot on, because it was like exactly for me. It was like, yes.
Wow.
And I've been asking myself this question even of like, what do I do with the thoughts that come with the pictures? Like, what do I do with that? Do I flow into it because it's a manifestation, or do I cut it off because it's so that was an answer to that question that I've been actually asking myself for the past week or so. I've been sitting with that.
That's so cool. So cool. That's it. And there's this, last piece, right? It's like when you flow in the river of light, and let the light river purify, or you could say clear the pictures that you're attached to. What comes through the river is meant for you and will give you fulfillment and satisfaction. What doesn't come through the river will not give you fulfillment and satisfaction. So you always have the choice to hop back on the land and will your way through reality. You always have free will. It's just that then there won't be the fulfillment and satisfaction you're seeking. See, human beings forget that what the divine gives actually brings the fulfillment you're seeking, the actual fulfillment. Yeah. Okay. Whew. That was good stuff. All right. Well, I guess we're at time, so we'll close those records. Do you have any last quickies?
That was so great.
Okay. 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 All right. Good. Whew. All right. So I want to tell you before I close really quick, when we were just doing the grounding exercise at the beginning and the kite and the balloon thing, your system is so receptive immediately to suggestion. You're very suggestible, which I'm sure you know as an actor is quite a gift, and as a human can be kind of challenging. But where it's really great is in your spiritual practice, because being that suggestible means when you turn that Syrian transmission on, it's going to fly you to the multiverse like fast. So expect really cool stuff from that. All right. So I want to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion, the Lords of the records for their point of view, and the Holy Spirit of life for all knowledge and healing. I ask that you return all of Safiya's energy to herself. I ask that you return her now to her complete human wholeness. The divine portal and the Akashic records for Safiya Noni Fredericks are now closed. Amin. Divine portal and the Akashic records for Safiya Noni Fredericks are now closed. Amin. The divine portal and the Akashic records for Safiya Noni Fredericks are now closed. Amin, amin, amin. Shadu an la ilaha illallah, shadu anna Muhammad abduhu wa rasulullah.
Man.
That was awesome.
I hope you will follow up with us and let us know how this transmission goes for you, because it's so strong and so cool, and I think you're going to love it. And I'd love to hear how it goes.
Thank you. That was incredible. I was here for that answer. Like, right? Like the questions all led me to that one, which I wasn't there in the beginning.
Right.
And because I sometimes, like, when I know that I'm going to do some spiritual work, I like to, like, feed into it, meditate on it, like, like get into the energy of it to see what needs to come up or what I need to like posit. And I was like, this all feels really innocuous, but it all led up to that piece about the pictures and that was like so spot on and incredibly deep in the well.
Yeah.
I love it.
So deep. That was so great.
Oh, that was cool. Thank you so much. Yay. I'm so glad you were
That's
here.
so awesome.
Safiya.
That was fantastic. I'm so glad to have gotten you on the show.
Yay. Yay. I'm so glad you asked me to be on the show. I feel so honored.
Tell your friends
love
to
you.
listen to the
Thank you.
podcast. Tell them to send in questions.
Yeah, please.
I will. For sure.
allanswerspod@gmail.com.
Yeah, that's right. All right, loves. I love you guys. We'll be in touch.
I love you. Do your work.
Okay, do your work, everybody.
Do your work, guys. Do your work.
What are you asking for? All of the answers? Say what? All of the answers? Yeah, all the answers.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you. Please email us with your questions so that we have questions to answer in the Akashic Records. Our email address is allanswerspod@gmail.com. That's allanswerspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to find us on Facebook or Twitter, it's @allanswerspod, @allanswerspod. Thank you.
My sassy pants.
That was incredible.
That was a Sounds Awesome production.